Good morning and welcome to our annual Conversations with the Mayor on the beach during this year, the 20th annual International Sand Sculpting Festival. Mr. Mayor, Patrick, it's great to see you and good to have you the second time around, I believe.
It is. It's
this
great.
Time, I'm sorry.
It's great to be here. This is exciting. It is my second season on the International Sand Sculpting stage here, but this is awesome. 20th year.
Yeah, and I was about to say this time you're officially Mayor of Revere.
Correct.
Not temporary. It's good to
I'm not acting anymore.
Well, that being said, we have the International Sand Sculpting Festival going all week long, and we won't get into all of the activities there because I'm sure Revere TV has been covering all of that. But needless to say, it's one of the biggest events of the year in the city. But there are other events going on in the city throughout the year. You want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. I mean, we have so much going on. We're, unbelievably vibrant community, and we're just trying to continue to add to that. Things like we're planning, we have in the plans for October, we're going to be doing our annual Fall Fest with a twist. This year we're going to be incorporating a Porch Fest theme to it. So City Hall Plaza is going to be live with music. Things like you saw just last weekend, we did the Copa Cup finals, Copa America finals on Shirley Ave. We had over 1,000 people come and attend a free event for our Revere residents, or for everybody to come and welcome them down to Shirley Ave to watch the Copa finals, which we had an unbelievable engagement from our community. Our entire team put together an event on 3 days' notice, and people flocked the neighborhood, and they had a really good time. So we're just in a really good time in the city of Revere.
Yeah. It's funny, you talked about the event on Shirley Ave, and I had the fortune of being over in Europe one time during Euro Cup. And it's amazing every night how they flock to the streets, and just like that. And it's great to see that coming here as well.
Residents were walking up the street, and because it's a transit neighborhood, so people were hitting the T or walking from other neighborhoods. And they were thanking us. They were thanking our team. They were thanking myself, saying this is what it feels like to be home. This is what it feels like when we're watching these unbelievable events. And they just want to share their culture with us. So as you know, Revere has a very vibrant population, people that really enjoy soccer. It's one of the largest sports in the entire world. So they were just thankful that we thought of them, and it was one of the best nights I had in a long time as well.
Fantastic. And Parks and Recs usually puts on a lot of events during the summertime. I know they've got the relatively new Haas Recreation Center, and I think they've got a lot of activities going on there. You want to talk a little about that?
Tons. So the Haas Wellness Center, Fitness and Wellness Center, is now up to almost 1,000 members, open 7 days a week. Even on holidays, they'll open for short periods of time because people do want to live that healthy lifestyle. But Haas has gone to Harry Del Russo, so Haas goes to Harry, has been doing some outdoor fitness and Zumba and dance classes, also some different types of yoga and meditation. So it is really about that total wellness package that the city of Revere is trying to offer to our residents, and it's been unbelievably successful.
Yeah. What about the city's collaboration with the DCR here on the beach for activities? What's going on there?
The city, the DCR, and the partnership, who does an amazing job. As we all know, the partnership's collaboration with the city of Revere and the DCR has been tremendous, and we want to make sure that we continue to do that. But things like volleyball on the beach for young adults, so up to ages 21. But the nets we'll continue to use because people like myself want to get some volleyball in. So we'll continue to have Thursday nights volleyball on the beach. Kids will come down and learn the sport. So they have educators there to teach them about volleyball and then play some different games. So that'll go on for the rest of the summer. And we're hoping to piggyback that into some more volleyball on the beach. And we're even trying to court some professional volleyball teams because Revere is the home of the national champion Renegades, and we know that people love to come to the city and enjoy our recreational facilities.
So at some time we could be having an international volleyball tournament on the beach then, yeah?
That is something we are definitely working on.
That'd be cool.
I'm not going to promise you anything right away, but I can tell you that it is a mission of ours to get in court a professional volleyball team to the city of Revere. So if you're watching, come on down.
That's a great segue into my next question is you're looking, this being your first official term as mayor, what are your thoughts since you've taken over this year and what sort of things are you looking forward to?
Well, my thoughts are, good government can be very boring, but it's something that's necessary. And one thing that I really focused mainly on, because there was as we all know, there was a contested election, and any election can divide a community, was really the biggest focus was bringing everyone back together. And we did a really good job of that. It was just embracing everyone from all walks of life and different backgrounds, but also people that all had that same common goal in making the best Revere. So we did a really nice job, and that was proof in January when the entire city council really came together, and we focused on getting the high school voted on and approved. So we did that, and then we went to the bonding in February, and again, 10-1, which even just 11 people really being positive about it was important. So we brought the city back together, I think, and we're continuing to take that momentum and to just focusing on really simple, good government. Good consumer relations for our residents and employees, and just being the best city we can be.
And that being said, about bringing it back together, of course, there was a huge turnaround on the school issue.
Huge.
It was great to see the vote that came about, and there seems to be a nature, an atmosphere, an environment of collaboration on the city council versus what we've seen in some of the years past.
Right, and you talk about the school, and I do want to give some credit to your grandson, who is an unbelievable young man. He's going off to Trinity. We all know that. I know that you're extremely proud of him, but I'm so proud of him, and he did such a good job over the year and a half, 2 years, going to city council meetings, speaking so eloquently. A 16, 17-year-old young man, and I believe now he's 18.
18.
Right, so he's going off to school next year. He's going to Ireland. And he's going to represent Revere well. He's also just joined youth collaborative, the mayor's youth advisory group, with another group of young individuals that care deeply about the city. So he's going to be zooming in from Trinity and participating and helping me shape decisions for our younger population, just like we have our senior advisory group that helps shape decisions for our senior population.
And not to stay on that for too long, but thank you very much. I am truly proud, and he's also on the governor's advisory council.
I know. I asked him first, but the governor officially appointed him first. But I'll just say that I think that I think everyone that meets Matthew sees what we all see and sees how special he is.
And I do that not only to laud his credibility, if you will, or whatever, but what I do that is going back to him going to Trinity. I wanted him to have that international exposure. I'm glad he chose that. But more importantly, I want to make sure that he's keeping his connections back here. So when he's done, he can come back and do more good for the city.
And he'll have plenty of opportunity to.
And there were a lot of other people in his class that worked with him. Raihan, who you know very well, being one
Special
of them.
individual.
We're going to have great futures, and I hope they're going to do more for the city as well. Talking about your goals, what are some of your major goals for the city looking ahead?
Well, we're sitting here on the beach, and this is obviously one of the most important focal points of all of our residents. It takes up a vast amount of our space, but it's not just the beach, it's also the rest of our coastal community. We have marshland, we have riverside, we have plenty of different areas that really impact our coastal environmental portion of the city, and just making sure that we keep a close eye on what's happening there. As you saw over the winter and the early fall, late winter, we saw a couple different traumatic climate events that impacted residents. So continuing to keep a close eye on that and monitoring and working with our state and federal partnerships to improve the quality of life for our residents, to work on our resiliency and make sure that we have the city that we want for the next 100 years. So that's a big one. And then, we got the high school to the starting point now, the official starting point, and now it's really over the next 12 months getting through that permitting phase and then seeing shovels get into the ground over the next, in about 12 months, which is going to be really important. But there's just so much on tap. We have new residents. We want to make sure that we are informing them about what our city's all about. We want to continue to keep up with our ground infrastructure, which again, those are the things that seem boring because you don't see it. But we've done a really nice job over the last 10 years, but we still have a lot of work to do with what's underground, and that goes with our sewer and wastewater systems and also our freshwater systems. So we want to make sure that people have good water pressure, but we want to make sure people have clean water, which Revere has very, very good water, and we want to keep it that way. So in continuing to invest and improve our underground infrastructure is really key to me. And again, I said that it can be boring to talk about that, but it's a lot less boring to talk about when you have a problem,
That's
when you
right.
don't have good water, when you don't have good pressure, or the water that you're trying to get rid of doesn't go anywhere.
away.
And we know what that can create.
Many of the neighborhoods know what that is. Yes, exactly. And you're right. The city has made a huge commitment over 10 years and probably going back further than that. But on trying to shore up its infrastructure and particularly in with new like the developments at HYM, putting some of the overhead wires underground and conduits that are probably going to last longer than they would overhead.
And that's what they do ask a lot, right? Because we've seen a lot of growth in our community over the last 14, 15 years, as a matter of fact. And they do ask a lot, well, where does that all go? And trust me when I say that every project that's come to the city has been had to put in an investment in their surrounding area, underground and above ground, to make sure that they're coming here, but they're also upgrading the systems that are around them. So we've held them to task on that, and that has done a lot of the work for us. But we have our own obligations, and one of the investments that we're going to be making that's not far from your neighborhood is the McMacken Fields, right?
Yes.
So the park at McMacken, for many years, people have driven by there and said, hey, what's going on with that field? Well, the city finally has actually taken ownership of that. For the last 50 or so years, the city didn't actually own that. But we worked with the former group, the Little League, and we have taken it over because it's a big nut to crack to be able to fix that and bring it up to where it needs to be and where it ought to be. So we're going to put that investment in, but it's now a city resource, and we are going to revitalize that park into a multi-purpose field and put it to good community use. But before we do that, we have to make sure that the water that hits that neighborhood doesn't flood a park, because you don't want to put millions of dollars in investment to have it flood out. And so we're working on, you'll start to see over the next 2 months, you'll start to see the demolition of the area. And then the next phase is the planning of what's going to happen underground. And that'll be the next portion. So we're planning that right now with some of our engineers. And then the last piece of that is to bring the field up. And we've talked and we looked at the studies and models. That's going to probably have to come up about 8 to 10 feet, which, as you know, clean fill, good fill that you want to build a surface on does cost money. So once we bring that up, then we'll be able to restore a beautiful field.
Yeah, that's going to be nice. And as you said, I think it's been 50 years. I know I've watched it go through the many iterations, and it seemed like the city or anybody was going to ever be able to wrest control of that from whoever owned it, you know, during the earlier years. But it's so great to happen. So talking about some of those things, we talked a little bit about the school. You briefly mentioned the budget, but some of your major accomplishments since you took over in January, what are some of the ones that come to mind?
Well, again, I said this from the onset. It's really been about our collaboration with everybody. And I think that the relationship between the city council, between the different departments, and our residents has been really, really, really good. And I think our communication to our residents has really ticked up over the last 6 months. And people have appreciated that, because we always say that you're not always going to get the answer you want to hear, but you want to get some form of response. And something from my background coming in the customer service industry is you have to do that. That's the bare minimum. If you aren't able to respond to your consumer, they're not gonna return. And sometimes cities and governments think that they don't owe that to their residents or their constituency base. And they just say, hey, they're not going to go anywhere else. Well, you know what? We want to attract people. We want to keep people. We want to keep our great residents. And we want to attract nice new ones. Yep. And we know that in order to do that, and in order to make sure that we're telling them that their property is worth what it is, and we know what it is we want to give them that basic level customer service that they deserve. Yep. And we owe it to them. So our communications to our residents has been really, really good. So things like we hear about 311. Big goal of mine is to make sure not only is 311 responsive, but the problem is eventually getting solved. And we know if someone says, hey, there's a pothole on Broadway, that's a pretty easy one to see. The pothole tends to get fixed, and or there's a reasonable understanding, whether it's weather or time of year, that it can't be done. But some of the ones that do take a little bit longer might have to do with more infrastructure needs or long-term. Some people do ask for trees to be removed. We don't remove trees unless there's a real true safety concern or the tree is dying. Yep. If it's a live tree, it's a healthy tree, we're keeping it. We want to keep a healthy environment. But following up on 301, quality checks on 301, making sure residents know that they're being heard, and then making sure the department heads know that when they close out a ticket, there needs to be action with that. So the project or the request was actually fully completed, and or there was a response to the consumer, the resident, saying, hey, this is going to be addressed in April because of the season. It's the middle of the winter. We can't do potholes right now.
Yeah.
So that the resident at least feels good about getting that response. And then there's actual follow-up in April.
Yeah, and as you said, communication is also so important.
Huge.
Key. And going back to 311 and satisfying people's needs, I, as we were talking, I was thinking of Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you just might find you get what you need. And so your goal is to make sure they get what they need. Moving on from those items, I want to talk a little bit about what you see as your challenges going forward.
There's always going to be wants, and there's always going to be wishes, and there's going to be the stuff that is really cool to do. But as we know, challenges tend to be for everybody, including homeowners, is about what you can afford. Because as we've seen, everyone has felt that pinch when it comes to going to either the grocery store or buying supplies to fix their home, is you can't do as much as you used to be able to do with your dollar. So the city has those same challenges, making sure that we have to be fiscally responsible to our residents and to our taxpayers, and know that we have to prioritize what is most important versus what we want. And that means the mayor has to temper his expectations, and the city council and all of our residents have to know that we're going to focus on what is most important, what's going to have the most vital impact, and then go down that list first. So that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
But that's normal, right?
So in talking about challenges, you look at the affordable housing, and it's not only for the people that own houses here, but the people who are low to middle income that are trying to subsist and live in this city, and frankly, who we need in this city.
Right.
You want to talk about some of that challenge?
Great one, and that is certainly for the entire region. Most of the Northeast is facing this housing crunch or housing shortage, and we all know it's supply and demand. So people are having to pay more for rent and or stable housing. So we are, as a city, have taken on different initiatives to either incentivize developments to add in some income thresholds to be able to offer more affordability. But something that everyone has seen for many, many years but hasn't really changed is our local housing authorities that are they are state run and federally run. The city doesn't truly run the housing authority. They're involved. We have a very vast amount of space in our housing authority, and being able to increase the density of that space to add more deep affordability and workforce affordability is a real focus of mine and our housing authority. But it's not just Revere's, it's across the entire Northeast. So we're working on developing a master plan for our Revere Housing Authority space, over 30 plus acres of space, to see if we can add more affordable housing there. Again, it's going to take time, because anytime you have state, federal, and local entities involved in a project, it does take a while, but that is going to be something that we'll roll out within the next 12 months, is a true master plan on how we can redevelop our housing authority.
Yeah, not to get too philosophical and using quotes, but using the quote, Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, it won't be built in a day, but it will be done.
And connected to the housing and affordable housing, or whatever, is housing in general. And as you know, because you were at the event with me where we heard Tom O'Brien from HYM talking about some of the slowdown in the development world, and if you will, clarifying exactly what is happening at HYM. And of course, he pointed out that in the economic climate, there's not enough incentive for investors to invest the money that people like Tom need to do the building that they want to do. And as you pointed out, government needs to help in providing something to help fill that gap for them. But more importantly, to the city of Revere and what's going on at Suffolk Downs, you want to talk a little bit about to clarify that?
You said the word investors, right? So investors are always going to look at what's their greatest rate of return. And that's why they shift where they allocate their funds. These are multi-millionaire or billion-dollar investors, so they're always going to say, am I going to get 4% or 5% of this project, or am I going to get 7 or 8% on a different project that might not be housing related?
Right.
So they're always looking to shift where they put their money. That's normal, but all of these housing developers have seen that from their investor base, and they've had to get a little bit more they've had to tighten things up a little bit to make sure that they can still make ends meet. So that's no different in Suffolk Downs. But the fortunate piece is Revere has been very accommodating, where some of our costs aren't the same as the Boston market.
Yep.
So you're going to get a better rate of return in the Revere area. So that slowdown hasn't really hit Revere the same as it hit some of the larger cities. So we're fortunate there. And investors and people are seeing that rate of return in Revere being still very strong. But we do have an obligation, and the state has chipped in, and they just drafted, the state legislature just came up with the housing bond bill, which is going to infuse some serious funding to developments like Suffolk Downs and other developments like even Gillette Stadium, the Kraft Group that's looking to do something in Everett. There's other major developments that are going to happen. They want to make sure that they're seeing cranes continuing to move. They want to see union workforce continuing to move. So the state's going to continue to incentivize that. The city of Revere is going to collaborate as well. But make no bones about it. If you drive by Suffolk Downs right now, things are still moving. Nothing has been moving as quickly as everyone wanted it to be 6 years ago, but the next portion is going to be going up in October, or starting. And that is a commitment that I have been given, and I'm going to keep them up to that commitment. But it's a partnership, and then we'll see in the spring what happens on the next piece. So I've had some really good conversations, not only with the HYM group in Suffolk Downs. You did a tour with me there last week, and you saw the work moving. So we're excited for the future of that project. It's an assembly row type project, and I say this because people have asked for that. But what everyone needs to realize is Assembly Row is a 10 to 15 year project, and if you go by Assembly Row today, they're still building. It's still not completed. It's a 20-year project. So Suffolk Downs very much the same. You're going to have these kind of blocks. They build block by block by block, and then it turns into a vibrant neighborhood, where you have shops, where you have outdoor venues, where you have little pocket parks and little areas of open space. And so in 10 to 12 years, you're going to see that all come to fruition. And then you're going to have other cities and towns talk about Suffolk Downs. They're going to say, we want a Suffolk Downs in our area. Yeah. And that's what Revere is going to get. I was fortunate to be on the ground in Assembly Row before even, I worked for Legal Seafoods for 20 years. And when we talked with the local guy. I think Patrick was involved in the conversations because there was a huge incentive to revitalize that neighborhood. As you know, it was a big parking lot. There was the old Assembly Square Mall, and it was really not, it was a blighted riverfront. And so the state infused some investment in there, and people saw what it could be. And I remember being on the ground, and I was just looking at this open parcel of land with my ownership group, and they're like, we're going to be putting a restaurant right here. And I looked at it and I said, this is not the nicest area. It's really kind of, it's off the beaten path. It's a little dumpy. And they said, no, we're going to do it here. And we signed an early letter of intent with the group, Federal Partners, and the real estate group down there. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't see it. Now, you're talking, again, 15 years ago, 12, 15 years ago. And I didn't have that vision to see it. I trusted my company, and it's been, that entire parcel, that entire area has been unbelievably successful for everyone day one. They've come in, and people have enjoyed living there, shopping there, eating there, and it's been a really great space. So
it's been a huge success, and to your point, 10 to 15 years, and from the get-go with HYM, this was touted as a 15 to 20 year project. You really, some of the early phases,
it's a bigger
longer,
project,
but right,
it's a bigger project.
Exactly, and the whole thing with development is it is all cyclical. At some point, it'll bounce back up, maybe not as fast as we hoped. But that brings up another question and another challenge in terms of the budget. So looking forward, if there's a slowdown in this development, and I also asked the question, when you look at the rest of the city, the other development that's going on, because everybody focuses on HYM, but what about other development in the city? Where is that? Is that slowing down as well?
No, it really isn't. Like everyone has, some people have had to shift a little bit, but it really isn't. We're still as busy as ever. You're seeing permits. We track it through permits, right? So people pull building permits. People pull all sorts of. They go to planning committee and they request talking to us and our team about what they can do in different areas. So we're continuing to see that. Our team is extremely busy, and we're not going to ever rest on one project. Certainly it is a big one, and it does have a big impact when it comes to funding for what we want to do 10 to 15 years from now. But there's other things happening in our city that we will always look at in making sure that we can make ends meet. But every mayor or every administration over the last 30 to 40 years has had to experience some sort of market correction or even a recession, and I don't think that we're facing anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think I'm not a financier, but I think that we're through the slight slowdown, economic slowdown. I actually truly believe that. But every mayor I'm going to be faced with, if I'm in for a long enough time, I'm going to have to face some tough decisions. And that's really where the partnership and collaboration with everyone comes to play. And then we have to just prioritize.
Yeah.
But we'll make good decisions. And I say this before, it's like anything. It's like I always equate it to how you pay your bills at home. And if something happens with, your kids need braces and you don't have $5,000 to $7,000 to shell out, you got to figure it out. Maybe you don't have HBO that month. Maybe you have to make a decision on your cable TV. Yeah. Those are tough decisions, but those aren't. You're not messing with the vital organs.
So is the city in the process of looking like that 5 years down the road? Say, this is what's possible. This is what we hope for. This is what the worst would be.
We have a 10-year to 15-year plan on how we look at the outlook. We don't just look 2 years out, 1 year out. We look 10 to 15 years, and we do different model projections on everything, on every single dollar that comes in and goes out.
Well, anything else that you would like to add to the conversation?
Before we I want to welcome everyone to the beach this summer. Ed, I don't know if you've seen this, but I come down here probably 5 to 7 times a week. Walk my dog. I go to the beach. I try to go off on my own. My wife and I, and because I don't, I sometimes take my shirt off, and but I come down to the beach. I enjoy myself, and I've never seen the beach more heavily populated with people on the beach than I have this year. Some of that's weather driven because it has been a very, very good summer so far, but I truly believe that everyone in this entire region has seen what we've seen for many years, and they said it's a great beach, the sand is beautiful, the water quality is excellent, occasionally you get some seaweed, but that's nature, right? Seaweed is nature, and why drive an hour and a half or get stuck in traffic driving south or north when you can come 15 minutes from all the surrounding communities and really enjoy everything? And then we've added the amenities. So you have beach with the 500 Ocean Ave with the restaurant space, but you also have some different food trucks and some different retail shops, and that's going to continue to grow over the next few years. So I just want to welcome everyone back down to the beach and really experience what we have always known, and you're seeing it happen. And
to your point about the beach, and I work at the convention center in Boston and run into people from all over the country and all over the world. I was just talking to a woman close by, Needham, her and her husband come out here quite often because they love this beach.
Last week, I was walking up on the platform, and I was walking towards Starbucks to get a coffee, and I saw a friend from East Boston Neighborhood Health, Manny Lopes, former director of East Boston Neighborhood Health, and he was with a couple people that had just flown in from New Orleans, and they said when they were flying out, their friends said, you got to go to Revere Beach, and they said. So we went to Revere Beach, and he said it's exactly what we expected and we were hoping for, and they will be back over and over again.
Yeah. Yesterday I just sent out 2 young ladies from Arizona because the Blue Line is free, as we all know. So they were I said, get on the Blue Line, take it to Wonderland, walk from Wonderland to the restaurant there and enjoy the beach. And I haven't talked to them yet, but I hope they had a great time. Well, I think that we need to wrap it up at this point, but Patrick, once again, it's been a real pleasure. For Revere TV, for the mayor, and for myself. And quickly, before we go, I would like a point of personal privilege to wish my wife a very happy birthday. Feliz cumpleaños, mi querida. Yo te amo mucho.
Wow, beautiful. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And until we meet again, take care.